Where is everybody? If somebody is going to ask questions or what is it? Okay, look, my opinion on this is I was definitely expecting much more. I was expecting much more in terms of boost for growth. I was expecting much more control on expenditure. I was expecting the fiscal deficit to come down even sharper. But at the end of the day, I would say that we are not too unhappy. There are some positives, like for example, there are incentives for power sector, there is something for agriculture, there is something for water, I think there is something for skill development and education. There are many positives, but the biggest negative according to me is the increase in excise duties and increase in service tax, especially the increase in excise duties. We are a little disappointed on that count because that is going to result in higher prices and that's going to result in inflationary pressures setting in. This is the sum up of that. So you can ask me questions and I and my colleagues will answer. Sorry. You see, on the subsidies, I don't have the correct numbers here, but the finance minister seemed to point out that this year's subsidy would be less than 2% of the GDP. But he will bring it down to 2% of the GDP. And he also said that the subsidies on food will remain on a 100% basis, and the rest of the subsidies he will work out on a affordability basis, keeping in mind that he wants to reduce the subsidy bill to 2% of the GDP. I am not entirely sure whether that is going to be possible. But if he can do that, if he can achieve that, I think that will be a good thing to happen. Sorry?
Do you fear that this is probably an election budget again preparing for
I don't think so. He has stuck to a middle path. That's what I see. He has given some incentive to industry. For example, he has talked about a lot of, there's a lot of talk on infrastructure creation. Definitely there are positives on infrastructure creation, power sector, mining equipment, and, you know, there are quite a few things on that direction. But it's not as aggressive as what I thought it could be. There are definitely some positives on water, for example. There are something on MSMEs. So I do see quite a number of positive things. But I would have expected something much more. And we were not expecting the excise duty increase in excise duty from 10 to 12%. The service tax thing, well, it has been increased from 10 to 12 and it will make things costlier for the consumer. I also see a very long list of negative. I have not gone through in detail, but the negative list and the exemptions list also seems to be quite long. In terms of power, coal, railways, I think full exemption for coal, for power plant. Power, we are having a major problem. I think he has tackled the power sector very, very well. Anything else? Look, this budget looks to be, with the excise duty increase, it does look like going to put a little more pressure on the inflation. Sorry? Yeah, I would have expected much more on the reform front. For example, both on the GST and DTC, I think he has been a little vague. I would have industry would have liked to see a very firm commitment or a firmer commitment on the road ahead. Industry, if he talked about the FRBM Act, the amendment to the FRBM Act. The earlier FRBM Act said that by 2014-15 the fiscal deficit would come down to 2.5. The roadmap is still not clear. We are at 5.9. We are talking about 5.1 next year. Containing fiscal deficit is important. The roadmap for containing fiscal deficit is not very clear ahead. He talked about disinvestment of some 30,000 crores. Last year we had a target of 40,000 crores and we achieved zero. So this year, how is that going to be achieved? What is it that we are going to do differently? That is a little bit unclear. So I hope in the fine print some of these things, details will come out.
Sir, about the fiscal deficit.
Yeah, that's correct. That's a positive step. The ECB, he talked both of the power sector as well as the aviation sector. He talked about the 49% the aviation being under debate and being under consideration. So there is no announcement on that.
Sir, keeping subsidy, this thing, less than 2% of the GDP is quite an ambitious target. With the given roadmap, do you expect
is-
that it is going to happen?
It is an ambitious target, but that is a target that he has taken, and I hope he is able to achieve that. Yeah, yeah. Anything else?
Sir, one question. Sir, do you think focus has been given to the R&D sector?
Yeah, he has talked about R&D. For example, I think agriculture. He has talked about R&D. He has talked about
What
R&D
are you
in.
expecting from the as far as R&D is concerned?
I think he has put some money in R&D.
Sir, how do you look at the aviation?
1 minute. What is it? Yeah, that's right. The 200% weighted deduction for R&D has been extended for another 5 years. That's right.
Sir, how do you look at the subsidies and the various benefits provided to the aviation sector? Do you think it can actually help the industry and the private players especially?
When you're talking about subsidies and aviation sector,
Not the subsidies, sir. The policies which have been announced for the aviation sector. How helpful they can be for the sector, which is like.
you see the aviation sector, the current problems are to do with the high cost of fuel. That's one of the major issues facing the Indian aviation industry. I think he has allowed direct import of aviation fuel, isn't it? And that should ease the aviation sector a little bit.
Can I?
Yeah, please.
Sir, can you, what can you give
One
us
sec,
some-
one sec. Let,
On aviation.
yeah,
Also given customs exemption for operations and maintenance.
that's correct.
Aviation hub.
That's right.
ECBs for working capital of with a limit of 1 billion for working capital in the aviation sector.
That's right.
Expected provided means certificate.
Yeah, that's
Sir,
right. Yeah, in fact, ECB for working capital requirement is, yeah, that's
Sir,
right.
one of the largest manufacturing parts of the industry, I mean, the automotive sector has been pretty badly hit with excise duties rising across the board, both on small cars, large cars, and on imported vehicles. Any opinions there, sir, since the auto industry comprises?
My opinion and our opinion is that it's not a good thing. The auto industry is an important industry for India, and it is growing, and we are able to export cars, and auto industry is not going to like this at all. Yeah, what else? No, it is, as the finance minister said, it is virtually impossible to please everybody.
Yeah.
There is a sector which requires subsidies, there is a sector which requires incentives for growth, so it is difficult budget. But under these circumstances, I would say personally, I am not entirely disappointed with the budget. I would have expected much more. This is a good time to go full hog on a major reforms budget, because of the fact that I think this government it doesn't have much to lose. So this is a good time to go aggressive on the budget. That unfortunately has not happened. That's what I had expected actually, but that's what has
Three
turned out.
dampeners that you feel for the industry, although there are many, but three top dampeners for the industry.
The one top dampener is the excise duty. That's a very major thing. And I would have also liked to have seen some manufacturing policy roadmap in terms of further down the road, because that's an important policy announcement. We haven't heard much on what's going to happen on that front. So excise duty is actually the major dampener. Anything else?
Yes, sir, just taking on from that, I wanted to ask, with the excise duty that has been raised, what is the impact going to be on manufactured goods? Do you see demand being reduced? Is it going to be a dampening of demand?
Difficult to say, but things are going to become costlier. See, with the higher excise duty by 2% more, it will become costlier for the final consumer, and it is going to put pressure on the inflation. It will just add to the inflationary pressures. Yeah?
Increase in
Anyone else
service
wants to
tax.
answer, please feel free. Adi, would you like to say something? Yeah. Adi, why don't you come along here?